The Havre Grace Planning Commission meeting of July 17th, 2025 will now come to order. I will begin by calling the roll. Ed Garono.
Here.
Warren Hartenstein is absent. Farhad Shah.
I'm here.
Chip Place.
Here.
Janice Chan.
Here.
Harry Miller.
Here.
And Chair Volney Ford is present. Okay. The first thing we will do is approve the minutes of June 26, 2025. We visited them the last meeting and had a couple of corrections made to them. And so I'd like to bring them up again and ask if anybody has any objection. Otherwise, we'd ask for a motion to approve.
Mr. Chairman, do you mean the May 29 meeting? Oh, no, June 26, you're correct. I'm sorry.
Well, I guess that's right. May 20, they got this in reverse order. Let's do
29.
May 29 first.
Right.
I'm sorry.
That's the one that was corrected?
Yeah,
Yeah.
May 29. Okay, any additions or corrections to the minutes as revised? You've all seen them. They were sent back to you.
Right. No, but I appreciate the revision.
Yeah.
That was included.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none. All in favor, please, well, let's just call the roll. Mr. Garono?
Yes.
Ms. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Place?
Yes.
Ms. Chan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. And so those minutes are approved. Now we'll move to the minutes of June 26th. That's the last meeting we had. And so this will be the first time that you've seen those minutes. And are there any additions or corrections offered to those minutes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve or disapprove.
I make a motion to approve the minutes of June 26,
Do
2020.
we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? I'll call the roll again. This time, Harry Miller,
Yes.
Janice Chan,
Yes.
Chip Place,
Yes.
Farhad Shah,
Yes.
Ed Garono,
Yes.
and Chair votes yes. And so those minutes are also approved. Unless there's any objection from the commissioners, at this point I would like to reverse the agenda and hear new business first. Our old business is more like a workshop to look at the latest revision of our rules and procedures. And I think it's inappropriate to hold a lengthy workshop when all these professionals are sitting here with their clocks ticking. So with no objection, I would like to hear the new business first. Objection? Okay. Now this is a formal hearing. This is building permit number 2025432. The applicant is Sheets Bowler Engineering, and it's for a site plan approval. Now, we want to open this hearing by asking everyone that wishes to testify to please stand and raise your right hand, including staff. And your oath is that you solemnly swear or affirm under the penalties of perjury that the responses given and statements made will be the whole truth and nothing but the truth. Do you so affirm? Thank you. Okay, we'll begin with staff. And your staff has prepared what I think is an excellent staff report. And I assume that all the commissioners have had a chance to read that staff report. And is there anything staff would like to add to that in introducing this case?
Just want to say good evening, Commissioners. We do have a staff report we'd like to read into the record, and Mr. Lawrence has been the project manager on this, so he'll be presenting that to you tonight.
Okay.
Hello, Commissioners, applicant, bowler, team. So the staff report is available online under the city website, on the city calendar under July 17th, 2025. It's accessible in a PDF format. It's available for you to download and follow along at your leisure. I'm going to be going over some of the highlights of the items that are addressed in here. If you wanted to read it in its totality, you are welcome to download it online. So Sheetz Gas Station and Fuel Pump is a site plan request by the Planning Commission for review and approval. The site description is the subject property is 1.48 acres and currently includes a 2,182 square foot vacant building that formerly operated as a Cecil Bank with accompanying parking lot and drive-through within the Pulaski Highway commercial corridor of Havre de Grace. There are no stream, non-tidal wetlands, nor forests within the subject property. There is no 100-year floodplain nor floodways in the within the subject property and is not located within the Chesapeake Bay critical area. Vehicular access is primarily from US 40 Pulaski Highway with secondary access from Osborne Lane and an improved road adjacent to Pulaski Highway. The subject property is currently zoned C commercial. The adjacent properties are also zoned C commercial that are within the city limits. The ones outside of the city limits in Harper County are zoned CI, which is commercial industrial. CI is also similar to the city's commercial zoning district. The open space is not a requirement since this is a site plan and not a residential subdivision. The annexation, the property was annexed into the city's corporate limits in 2023 under Annexation Resolution 2023-21. To be more specific, the applicant is requesting Planning Commission site plan review and approval for a gas station consisting of 6,132 square feet and a 6-pump fuel service canopy on 1.47 acres. This is per Article 5 of the City Code for Planning Commission review and Zoning Code 205-37B for gas station, which is a conditional use. The conditional use was already heard in June, on June the 5th, which is approved. APF, the adequate public facilities, item 1 would be schools. Since schools, this is a commercial project, schools is not applicable to this use. Item 2, which would be sewage, the site plan and accompanying documents and city plans have been reviewed by DPW and have deemed the sewage adequate. The city is in the process of locating and securing financing for the required upgrades to Water Zone 1 pertaining to the NFPA water storage. This, along with DPW's recommendation that the developers and owners provide a fire protection engineer evaluation letter of fire flow storage capacity for the subject property and required completion of items stated in the Sheetz APFO letter under water requirements. This will satisfy the APF requirements per B2A, B, C, and D of the City Code. Item 3 would be roads. The traffic impact study was reviewed by the Maryland Department of Transportation State Highway Administration in addition to Harper County, and comments were provided to the city and applicant. One item to note is the adjacent Osborne Lane will be improved to meet Harper County Road Code standards. Under Chapter 155, under site plan, item A, access into the site. Access will be primarily through the Pulaski Highway corridor, and secondary access will be provided by Osborne Lane. Item B, access drive location and spacing. The applicant has provided a site plan and truck movement diagram depicting safe vehicular access and spacing in relation to parking, movement, turning, overall maneuverability. The site plan appears to be technically sufficient in this regard. C, the internal vehicle circulation, a truck traffic movement diagram that depicts the internal movement of large wheelbase vehicles in addition to the site plan and depicts the parking spaces and circulation configuration. This regular circulation and configuration appears to be technically sufficient. The site plan was also reviewed by the Havre Fire and Hose Company in addition to the police department. No comments were provided. Item D, parking lot layout and design. Off-street parking standards per 122 of the city code requires 1 parking space per 200 square feet of retail floor area for a retail store/gas station use. The off-street parking minimums have been reviewed by the department and found to be technically sufficient. The proposed gas station is providing 30 parking spaces on site that comply with the 9-foot by 18-foot minimum dimension requirements in 1 and 22-5 design standards and 2 ADA parking spaces as required. Item 4 would be drive-through stacking. This section is not applicable to the applicant's request for a gas station use. Item 5 would be pedestrian circulation. Pedestrian circulation has been provided within the site around the building and along US 40 Pulaski Highway per MDOT/SHA and Department of Planning recommendations. Under architecture, 155-16, the floor plan and architectural sections and elevations have been provided by the applicant for review and approval by the Planning Commission. Item B, building facade and massing. All non-residential buildings must be oriented to face the street with entrances and display windows at street level as seen on the plans. Our response is the following. The proposed sheets building is oriented towards Pulaski Highway with windows at street level and complies with this section. In the C commercial district, all sides of a commercial or multifamily building must face a street with the specific material such as brick, decorative masonry, glass panel, or other appropriate finished facade as may be approved by the Planning Commission. Our response is the proposed sheets building complies with the material and finishing in this section, including outdoor benches, planters, and pedestrian spaces. 155-17 for signs. All proposed signage must comply with Chapter 151 of the City Code regarding the 10-foot height restrictions in the C commercial zoning district, excluding the gas station pricing area, which is regulated by the state. We have reviewed the applicant's sign proposal, and it is satisfying the criteria. Article 7, 8, infrastructure, under 155-18. The Department of Public Works has reviewed the submitted April 22nd, 2025 concept stormwater management plans and has deemed them technically sufficient. Furthermore, 155-19, water and sewage. As previously stated, the Department of Public Works has provided a review letter to the planning commissioners and the applicant for review regarding APFO, and that they are determining that there is adequate capacity to serve the proposed project as stipulated in their request review letter. Article 9, environmental resource protection. The applicant proposed site plan has been reviewed by the Harford County Health Department in a letter dated May 13, 2025, and offers their comments therein. Under 155-22, the floodplain management and critical area and forest conservation. As previously stated, the subject property does not contain any floodplains, critical area, or forest conservation areas as described and stated herein. A simplified forest and delineation has been provided with supplemental reports and deemed technically sufficient by the department. No specimen trees exist on site and was field verified by the department staff on May 5th, 2025. Furthermore, the subject property does not contain any floodplain, therefore Chapter 78 does not apply. And it is not within the Chesapeake Bay critical area. Additionally, Chapter 81, forest conservation. As stated, a final forest stand delineation will need to be reviewed and approved in addition to the simplified forest stand delineation at the time of final review by the department after Planning Commission review. And as previously stated in their report, in the simplified forest stand delineation, that no specimen trees exceeding 30 inches of diameter at breast height will be removed from the subject property because they do not exist. Chapter 169, stormwater management. The April 22nd, 2025 concept stormwater management plans were reviewed by the Department of Public Works on May 27th, 2025, and found to be technically sufficient. Chapter 102, the preliminary landscape plan was submitted concurrently with the preliminary site plan and has been reviewed by the Department of Planning and found to be technically sufficient. A final landscape plan will be A final landscape plan will be provided, reviewed, and bonded according to Chapter 102. The comprehensive plan. This is within the commercial corridor of Pulaski Highway, and as stated in Chapter 2 of the Land Use, a whole city plan, visual cohesiveness and attractive commercial and mixed-use residential development is a desired goal, as US 40 is a main feature within the city. Therefore, the redevelopment and commercial property within this corridor is highly sought after, and this will meet the criteria of the comprehensive plan in terms of overall streetscape connectivity and improvements within the corridor. Additionally, that goes on to address transportation for improving the site through sidewalks, bikeways, and multimodal capabilities. That being said, the Department of Planning offers the following recommendation. We have examined the appropriateness of the applicant's request per Chapter 155-11 of the City Code and recommends approval of the site plan for a Sheetz gas station as provided for the reasons found in the above analysis, subject to conditions found below. Additional comments will be forwarded to the applicant upon approval of subsequent final plan submissions and final landscape plans, final stormwater management plans, final site plans, etc., which will be reviewed in accordance with applicable city code by the appropriate departments and agencies at time of final submittal and approved accordingly. The conditions of approval are: 1, we do not offer any conditions beyond what is required to meet city and state code. I'm now taking any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Do any commissioners have questions about this report or need clarification on anything?
I have one, and it's simple. I just need to know on page 6, under 82-9 roads, the second paragraph, it says the adjacent Osborne Lane will be improved to meet Harford County Road Code standards. By who and how?
Say that again?
I would like to know how it's going to be improved and by who. Who's going to do the improving?
The improvement will be made by the applicant to meet the Harford County Road Code standards. I do believe that they will
Be
include
addressing that?
that. What's that?
Will they be addressing that and then what they're going to do?
Yes, they have a traffic engineer who
Okay,
will be
got it.
speaking to that.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
You have, okay?
Yeah, I have some questions. Eric and Jeff, first of all, thank you for your revised notice on this. I think it makes it more clear that this is that. My questions relate to the adequacy of the public facilities. We have a letter from the Department of Public Works, file is dated April 22nd, 2000. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Jimmy. Yeah, we have a letter from Public Works dated April 22nd, 2025 that was in the file, and it raised some familiar issues. One was adequacy of sewer pump stations, and the Department of Public Works stated that they anticipated having those corrected by the end of 2025, which, seems adequate. But in prior applications, there was reference to an engineer's report that was expected in June regarding these issues. Was that ever provided to the city?
So the updated GHD water model is still pending. We expect it to be delivered next week.
Okay. All right, thanks. So assuming that holds up, it seems like the sewer issue could be addressed. What seems very difficult to address, though, is the water supply issue and fire protection, and that we went over with Wawa last time, the need to build a 1 million gallon elevated water storage tank, and some pretty heavy duty water lines too. And the Department of Public Works said there is no funding in place. They can't even seek funding for a couple of years and the only way to get around that is if the applicant is willing to fund these things themselves. I assume the applicant has not indicated a willingness to do that? So, okay, all right. So, that makes it very, and, with it being 2 years out, that seems like there's not adequate water supply for this facility. And it applies to Wawa, it applies to others. And it's a tough situation. Obviously, redevelopment of a site like this is very important. It's exactly the kind of thing we'd want to see, but it doesn't seem like the city's really prepared to accommodate a project like this. So I don't know if you could provide further clarification on how we can reasonably expect this to get done, or very specifically, it said the city will prepare a staff report for conditional approval by the Planning Commission and will request that the project be placed on a waiting list with the recommendation that the construction shall not begin for 2 years from the date of Planning Commission's conditional approval. But an approval of a site plan is only good for 1 year. So, and then apparently reading the adequate public facility law, you can't extend an application that doesn't meet adequate public facilities. So I think we're stuck on that point. And I mean, we can talk about it further, but I think that's a real sticking point. The other point was related to traffic, and there was a traffic plan that was submitted, very detailed. By the way, your presentations were very detailed, excellent. There was a traffic plan that was submitted. It showed levels of service of F at peak hours at both Martha Lewis Boulevard and Blenheim Run. And then there was a series of correspondence from MDOT, and that kind of actually retraces the history of Greenway Farms a little bit and maybe how it got to level F. But apparently MDOT had requested updated traffic reports on Greenway Farms as it entered phases 2 and 3, and from what I take from their correspondence, they didn't really see any level of service indications until they got the Sheets traffic report and showing that there were levels of service F there. So this raises two questions: whether whether Route 40, whether that is adequate to accommodate this project, and it raises a broader question on how these projects get approved and why I always advocate that we nail everything down at preliminary approval, because things can get lost down the road, and then you have full developments that occur without adequate, in this case, intersection improvements, and leading to failure of the intersection. So those are my two main comments. If you have any comments in reply, or those are my main questions.
Staff have a response?
So the Department of Public Works will make final determination on adequacy for public facilities regarding water, sewer, and the intersections.
But we have to have that to approve. They have to give that. They have to demonstrate that to us for us to approve this. And they haven't done that. In fact, they've demonstrated the contrary, that there's not adequate public facilities.
Their comments could be found in the April 22nd, 2025 memo and the June 6, 2027, June 27, 2025 memo to the applicant regarding APF of water and sewer. The city is currently in the process of locating and seeking funding opportunities for the water tower.
Right. It doesn't have it.
However,
But you said a June 27th?
June 27, 2025, regarding the fire engineer certified letter review.
Maybe I missed it. I did not see that in the file.
It's the same letter that was provided to the Wawa for the extension.
Yeah, okay. So in other words, all right, my comment stands. They're not in a position to provide that anytime soon. Okay.
Is the planning department satisfied that, in your minds, that there's adequate water and sewer and provision for intersection traffic?
So in terms of water and sewer supply capacity, there is. Now, there may be an issue potentially with the storage, but that can be addressed with a fire protection engineer certification, which Mr. Conway provided that letter to the applicant stating that if they had that fire protection engineer provide that certification that there was enough fire flow, then that could be met. It's an alternative to the adequate public facilities requirement. So that is something the applicant will have to work with Mr. Conway on prior to any issuance of building permits. Now, in terms of the intersection at Greenway Farms, I believe there was a warrant analysis that was required, and it didn't require that signalization would be required at that intersection. But I believe the applicant could speak more to that in their presentation. But at this point, the Department of Planning is fine with the site plan as proposed, and we believe it can be approved. And any adequacy of public facilities will be addressed prior to building permit issuance, as we stated, in the previous subdivisions and site plans that have come before you. So we believe that you can approve this and move it forward for the rest of the development process.
Thank you. At this point, I would request a motion that we introduce the staff report into the record.
I motion that we introduce this staff report into the record.
I second it.
Discussion on that motion? I'll call the roll. Mrs. Shaw?
Yes.
Mr. Place?
Yes.
Ms. Chan?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Garono?
Yes.
Chair votes yes. So we're making that a matter of record to go with the verbal report. And again, I want to compliment the department on the thoroughness of this staff report. It's one of the best I think I've ever seen, and it seems like it hit everything. Now I'd like to turn to the applicant, and I'm going to ask you to take turns making your presentation. As you do, if you would step up to the mic and give us your name and address, either personal or business address, please.
You got it. Hi, I'm Christina Bauer with Bowler Engineering. Business address is 901 Delaney Valley Road, Suite 801 in Towson. There's some other folks that I'll let introduce as they need to speak. But I'm here on behalf of the applicant Sheets to talk about the hopeful proposed development here at the intersection of Pulaski Highway and Revolution Street, or Osborne Lane, or whichever name you want to call it today, because I know it has several. As the staff has already kind of given you all the preview here, but Sheets is looking to propose a approximately 6,100 square foot Sheets convenience store with associated fuel canopy. As you can see, kind of here's here, make sure you can hear me. This is currently a signalized intersection here. Revolution Street is down here. Osborne Lane is currently an unimproved gravel roadway. And just to kind of note and touch on something that was mentioned in the staff report, Osborne Lane is SHA right-of-way, so they do have jurisdiction over the improvements that are proposed there. But as staff has already discussed, we did present to the Board of Appeals last month in June and did receive approval of the conditional use application. This project has kind of been in the works for since 2024. We actually had multiple application meetings, pre-application meetings with the city staff, with the prior planning director, have had several meetings with SHA just to make sure that we were getting ahead of any potential improvement challenges with the unimproved Osborne Lane section. And then obviously the TIS was also submitted and has been reviewed and accepted by State Highway Administration. And we do have Dave Nelson here with Street Traffic that can talk about any specific questions that you might have about that. But just to kind of talk a little bit more, so as I mentioned, this is located at the northwest corner of Pulaski Highway, unimproved Osborne Lane. We'll touch on I'll show you the site plan here, since Janice, I know you had some specific questions here about the proposed ultimate improvements on Osborne Lane. So this is a signalized intersection. So from overall site entrance proposal, we would have a full movement access here. Related to truck circulation, the truck would enter from Osborne Lane. We would have one inbound lane here with 2 outbound lane here. Appropriate signalized improvements would be, which Dave could touch on further if you have questions, obviously would be subject to final design with the SHA improvement plans. There are frontage improvements, 5-foot sidewalk along here and along both, so improving pedestrian connectivity along with appropriate site landscaping. We'll have a monument side, which staff mentioned is in compliance with city code requirements. We meet all of the bulk regulations, so we're not requesting any variances or modifications from city requirements. Specific to landscaping, so existing conditions, so there are no specimen trees on site. There are a total of 16 6-inch caliper trees or larger that are being removed. We are mitigating replanting 22 trees, so much larger trees, primarily those trees. I'm gonna have a list in here around here for you. But primarily those trees are located here along the rear of the property. From a stormwater approach, so we are providing quality and quantity stormwater management. As staff has mentioned, the concept plan has been found technically sufficient and is approved. Obviously, final design is subject to the next 2 steps in the process, but we are going to be providing stormwater via 2 modular wetland facilities, ultimately subject to final design and meeting city requirements to manage the 2 in the 10-year storm. Related to APF, you know, acknowledging that there is the water item, Sheets acknowledges that that is an item and that there has been the ask to get a fire protection specialist and pursue that testing and anticipates doing that. Ultimately, the ask would be that there would be an approval. We still have a pretty lengthy review process for the next several steps in the process. And ultimately would anticipate that APF be addressed prior to any permits issued, as would be required by city code. I think that's at least for me. If there's any specific questions.
Commissioners, do you have any questions of our presenter? None?
I have a few questions. What would be the process your process to satisfy the APF, and especially the fire protection issues, due to the lack of storage available?
The first step would be to engage a fire protection engineer. As you know, DPW has suggested, they would conduct some testing. Truthfully, it's not my specialty, so I'm not sure what degree of testing that they would need to do to satisfy that requirement, but that would be the first step.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a better clue of what's the testing, what's involved in that. Can somebody help me?
Well, sir, if you'd give us your name and address, please.
Yes, good evening. My name is John Eidberger. I'm Entitlement Managers with Sheets, Inc., located out of Claysburg, Pennsylvania, 243 Sheets Way, Claysburg, Pennsylvania. I didn't mean to step in front of Chrissy here, but I did want to just offer some more context. So we are in receipt of the information that we've received from the city and staff regarding adequate public facilities, and we're ready to address that by retaining a licensed fire protection engineer professional. We're going to rely on him to work very closely with city staff to understand what needs to be studied, what protocol needs to be undertaken, and then engage that fire protection engineer to address those requirements, study the site and the surrounding areas, come up with a document to present back to the city to get it to an approvable stage right now. So it's an early stage right now, But I'm here to offer up that we will hire a fire protection engineer to begin that process and work very closely with city staff to come to an agreement on what needs to be studied, then engage that fire protection engineer to study the corridor, study the site and study the corridor, to come up with findings and present it back to the city to get to an approval state right now. But we can't specifically say we're going to study from here to here tonight. We have to work very closely with city staff to basically scope what needs to be done here, and then produce the documents to present to the city. Ultimately, city staff will have to review and approve that before building permits are issued. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I was trying to understand how the situation could be mitigated.
Yeah.
And you're saying a study, but,
We have to
is it on-site storage? Is it, how do you have an idea how this?
Could be any number. I'm not a fire protection engineer. That could be one option for an on-site storage tank.
Yeah.
Maybe we find that the existing use does have compensatory storage that can be allocated for the new sheet store. There's an existing building there right now. There may be an allocation for that can be credited back and offered to the new sheet store. That's one option. I'm not sure that's a guarantee. Okay. Maybe we have to look at the water and sewer lines up and down the street and look at some capacities for nearby existing and proposed developments to see how the capacities flow. That's what the fire protection engineer will look at and really calculate. If I could draw a comparison, it's more like a traffic study where you do a scoping meeting, understand what needs to be studied, and then you engage that traffic or that fire protection engineer to go out and do the actual hardcore studies to see what's out there on the existing site, what's in the corridor, neighboring businesses. Is there an opportunity to put a small storage tank on site to hold water? Those are things that I'm thinking need to be studied, but the true engineer that's going to study this will come out with recommendations and work with city to come to a resolution on that's accepted by the city and can work for sheets so we can move forward, secure our building permits, and move forward with construction. But we fully understand that building permits can't be issued until that is addressed. So I hope that answers the question.
Now that gives me a little better idea.
Thank you.
Okay. I have a question about improvements to Route 40. Are there any travel lanes modified or anything in that regard?
If I could, we have our traffic engineer here tonight, Dave Nelson. Maybe he could come up and speak towards that because he has worked very closely with Maryland State Highway to bring the traffic study to an approved state right now. So Dave, if I could call you up, please.
Yes, if you give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Dave Nelson. I work with Street Traffic Studies. Our office is at 400 Crane Highway North in Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
Okay.
The question you just asked, are there any travel lane additions on Route 40? No.
Modifications?
No. We are modifying the intersection by providing the north leg. We're working with the State Highway to design the width of the road and how it ties in. We'll be modifying the signal because right now there's very little of any traffic on that approach. Because of the safety perspective of the double left on the other side, we've already recommended that the signal phasing be changed.
Right.
So it'll be a split phase instead of so you won't have concurrent lefts trying to fight for space. And those are all detailed within the traffic study. So, and then anything else as we work through them, we have to go through the DR process with the Office of Traffic. Anytime you modify a signal, there may be things that we need to upgrade to current standards while we do it. But the main proposal is to add the north leg and modify the signal to accommodate it, but there was no need to add additional through lanes on Route 40 at this time.
Okay, that's good to know. Because there is that bike lane along there, so there would be no impingement on.
Yeah, and there's nothing we're doing to preclude any widenings either. I mean, like when we modify the signal, we'll actually put the poles in a place where it'll be designed to the ultimate, so you wouldn't see us put in poles. Then come in, if, say, this property on this side develops, they wouldn't have to tear out the signal. They would just be able to build it based on what we put in. So we try and plan accordingly.
Okay. And then while you're up there, Mr. Nelson, your traffic study did indicate that the levels of service at peak hours at Blenheim Lane and Martha Lewis were F. Is that correct?
Well, there's a couple of things I'd like to go over. One, we did work, the study was pretty extensive for sheets.
Yes.
We worked with the county, we worked with the city, we worked with the state highway. we scoped the study, so there were 7 intersections we looked at, but they're all state intersections.
Right.
So basically, when that happens, their guidelines are the ones that apply, because any work we would do would have to be approved by them. And based on their procedures, so we used 2 procedures in the study, critical lane and highway capacity. Critical lane is a process that the state uses, and it passes all their tests for that. And that's why they generated their approval letter that said, based on their review, they believe that we've met their criteria for intersections with the improvements that we proposed here. The intersections, those 2 other intersections are looked at with a more detailed analysis under total traffic. And instead of looking at an intersection and getting an overall level of service where you just grade all the movements, high capacity looks at each one.
Right.
And there were some that were projected under total conditions to fail.
Right.
Which is not inconsistent. There could be some, even when you have a signal, that fail, but you look at the average level of service. But what we did based on that is the state requested us to do new signal warrant studies. So I don't know if that was in the report, but we did 2 new warrant studies, which is basically a study to determine whether signals are justified. So we did that, and the state reviewed it, and they felt that they weren't approved now, but in the future they may be. But we had noted that the sheets really adds very little, if any, traffic that would increase the justification for a signal.
Right.
Through lane trips really don't apply to signals, it's the side streets.
Right.
And our conclusion was that as those developments expand, they're the ones that are responsible for it, and they're the ones that would benefit from it.
Right.
And that's what the state agreed with. So.
Right. It wasn't, the service there was failing, but it wasn't necessarily your responsibility to fix it,
Right.
because your
And
added trips were negligible.
our added trips are
And the
negligible.
state took the position that they did not provide signals for private development.
That's true. But also, the failures were under total, so we included 11 background sites, other sites that are not yet completed yet. Also, we added growth and through trips to account for potential increases. And what you don't do when you put in a signal is you don't put them in based on projected volume. You put them in based on existing volumes.
Right.
And the reason is, I'm going to tell you, is signals actually can cause accidents. I mean, it helps the side street, but there's a tendency for like rear ends on 40 to increase if you put a signal in where there wasn't one. So there's a real push to not put them in until they're justified. And the conclusion was they aren't justified at this time. And they're not the responsibility of sheets.
Okay. Yeah, they didn't seem committal one way or the other in terms of whether it was justified, but, okay. All right, I appreciate that background. Just one small comment on the landscaping plan. You've planted some street trees within the street right-of-way, have you?
Yes. There are trees along here, yes, street trees.
Okay. Eric, is that something we discourage, is street trees in the street right-of-way? Or no? I thought when we were talking about Wawa, we discouraged street trees, and we wanted that on the private property.
In chapter 102, I do believe that the street trees will be within the adjacent property. However, we are sending, once we move beyond this point, we will send over the plans to SHA for their review and approval in coordination with their plans. So right now it's tentatively, and it does have preliminary landscape approval.
Yeah, okay. I'm thinking, the Baltimore Metropolitan Council has identified a new pedestrian bike route along Route 40, and not sure, it hasn't gone into design yet, but don't necessarily want to put things in there that would get in the way of that or would go to waste if you put in nice street trees along there. Okay, but otherwise, again, your presentation is excellent. Your drawings, your site plans, excellent job. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners have any questions of the applicant or?
I have a comment. I'm really thankful that you're putting trees up behind your place to block off the storage buildings. I think that'll look lovely. It's not lovely now.
Yes, yes. I'm a Harper County resident, so I drive by it frequently and think the same thing. But
There's a lot of orange back there.
yes.
And I appreciate the lighting and the restriction of 3,000 Kelvin on the lighting. That's very important too, to preserve dark sky standards as much as possible.
Okay, no other comments or questions? Anybody? Okay. Is there anyone here from the general public? I don't believe so. I want to make sure. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, we will at this point close the testimony and move to the commissioners for a motion.
I'd like to introduce a motion. I'd like to present a motion to approve the plan, provided the conditions are followed per the report.
Believe it or not, this
There are
time,
no conditions per se.
yeah, there are no conditions.
The condition is that there are no conditions.
Yeah.
But whatever the language is,
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
Okay.
correct.
Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, let's hear discussion on the motion. Anybody have any discussion or opinions or anything you want to throw out there?
Well, Mr. Chairman, as you know, and as I've stated, and I always state, I prefer to see things wrapped up and very clear before we grant preliminary approval to anything, because a long time can pass in the interim, and things can receive final approval, and maybe some certain things were never really fully addressed. And this fire suppression issue is, I think, a very real issue. Would be incredibly costly for the city to undertake. We got maybe a inkling of what the applicant might be able to do themselves, but that's a wide open question. And that's the kind of question that, I think requires real clarification before we approve anything.
Well, if I may respond to that, we actually are not the final approval step. The final approval step is the staff itself and the city administration on all the issues that have been raised, issues of concern that have been raised tonight. They cannot build that place. They cannot get a building permit until all of those conditions are met to the satisfaction of the Department of Planning and the Department of Public Works. We're here to approve a site plan, and we don't have the technical expertise to approve those individual things, to even understand them to the fullest when it comes to traffic, when it comes to adequacy of water pressure, sewerage, and things like that. We have to rely on our professional staff to act as the final approval agency for those things. I'm glad we raised those concerns. The staff has already represented to us in the staff report that in spite of those issues, they are recommending approval of the site plan as presented. And that's just my comment about that. Yes.
I think it's clear, though, that the applicant and the department are aware that, there could be further demands made to, help the city realize adequate water supply and pressure to in this zone down there. And so that could be something that could come up down the road from the department.
Yeah, I understand that, but the adequate public facilities has to be demonstrated before we approve. And I understand that the expertise of the city staff in providing that information, but we should have that before us, before we approve that. And again, and then even, the Department of Public Works said, the city will prepare a staff report for a conditional approval by the Planning Commission. We don't even have that. And we'll request that the project be placed on a waiting list with the recommendation that construction not begin for 2 years from the date of the Planning Commission's conditional approval. So,
Can we take a vote on the motion first?
I'm sorry?
Can we take a vote on the motion first? Because we've introduced a motion already.
Well, we're in the comments on the motion, and these are his comments. The motion is still on the table and has been seconded. And, we're ready to take a vote after each person has weighed in with any comments on the motion. So that's where we are.
and, at minimum, we should have conditions. I would have hoped that the staff would have provided those conditions in its report regarding either the engineer's report or those factors that the Department of Public Works has identified.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, we have a motion to approve the subdivision, site plan approval, not subdivision, to approve the site plan as presented. I'm going to call the roll. Harry Miller,
Yes.
Janice Chan,
Yes.
Chip Place,
Nope.
Farhad Shah,
Yes.
Ed Garono,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. Your site plan is approved, and this concludes this hearing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Now, the last item on our agenda is to take up some planning commission business. And that is, I had drafted a set of rules and procedures over a year ago and sent them out to you. Has everybody got a copy of this draft in front of you
I do not.
that has the redlining on it?
I do not.
You don't? There you go.
Thank you.
Chip's got one. Okay. Now, so we kept tabling this month after month after month because we were waiting for a couple of things. Number one, we were waiting to see if City Council wished to entertain the idea of eliminating the alternate member. That was the main thing, and that would have greatly affected the way this draft would look in the end. And in the meantime, I had sent a copy of the draft over to our city attorney to take a look at, and recently she took what I had written a year ago and did all the redlining in here, which is a tremendous amount of work that she did for us. And I really appreciate that. And I've read this over 2 or 3 times since I've seen it. And I am personally, as the original author of the draft, I'm very pleased with it overall. I've only found a few little, really almost like typo corrections that I would propose, and I found one thing in here that I thought needed a little bit of clarification. So we don't end up spending all night here, what I'd like to do is just take this thing page by page and take a bite out of each little section on each page and then hear your comments, hear your recommendations. And I'm assuming that everybody has had at least one pass at this thing, reading it. I hope so. Because it'd be very tedious if we're reading this for the first time tonight. And it also, if you're not used to reading this type of strike-through modification to proposed legislation and proposed rules, it takes a little getting used to know what's a strike-through and what's an underline and all that. I assume everybody understands those things when they read them. And sometimes you kind of go crazy trying to keep your train of thought as you're reading through a line that's been juggled. But let's take the overview first. Does anyone have any problems with what has been done to the overview? First paragraph of the overview.
Looks fine to me.
Everybody happy with it? Okay. We'll just move on to the second paragraph, starting with line 18. Now here she's mainly being specific about the articles and codes and everything. I was being more general, and she's just basically nailed it down to a more accurate description of those codes and things that we have to adhere to. Any problems with the second paragraph? By the way, before we go any further, it's my intention after tonight to take what she's done and what we add to it or detract from it tonight, and I'm just going to revise what I sent you originally. Without all the red stuff, it'll all just be like it should look, and let you read through it one more time.
Final document.
A final document, and I'm in hopes, unless there's some major changes in here, I'm in hopes that we can adopt that document, or not adopt it. I think the city council has to adopt it. Is that right?
No, you can adopt.
I mean,
You can adopt the rules and procedures.
okay, with that, it doesn't have to be blessed by city council.
Correct.
Good, good. Just by the city attorney.
Well, reviewed by the city attorney, approved by your board.
Okay, so anyway, I'm very much hopeful that we will act on this and adopt these things at our next meeting in August. Okay, so second paragraph is okay. We'll move down to the general provisions, section 1, 2, 3 on page 1. And the only thing I think is a mistake is on line 40. It should read, the 8 commissioners appointed by the mayor are referred to as 7 regular members and 1 alternate member. Did you mean for it to say 7 when you? Oh, I'm sorry. You just didn't catch it when you did your redlining, right? This is line 40.
Yes, but there are only 7 commissioners and 1 alternate. So that is correct. There's still only 7 commissioners and 1 alternate.
Well,
Oh, I see it. I see. I'm
yeah,
sorry, I was
earlier,
looking at the wrong line.
commissioner includes alternate. The term commissioner is the regulars and the alternate.
Right.
The term commissioner. So the 8 commissioners appointed by the mayor are referred to as 7 regular members and 1 alternate member.
Right, and if they're referred to generically, members includes the alternate.
Okay.
But then where we want to distinguish between the regular and alternate, there will be a distinguishment. Does that make sense?
Okay, and here we talk, and the other big change that happened is when, of course, in addition to hanging on to the alternate member, is we lost our council liaison as a member of the commission. And that was the other big change that we had to deal with in revising what I wrote a year ago. Yes.
So I'm confused about line item 42. Sorry. I'm confused about line item 42. And I'm sure maybe somebody can just school me on this because I maybe haven't read every other code here, but where does it say who appoints the council liaison. Where does it say that somewhere else? Is that one of these things up top here?
So the city council president, when he's appointed every year, elected by the council members every year, he appoints ad hoc committees that they have, and then he can also appoint liaisons. So it's at the council level. We haven't formalized that yet in the planning commission section because we're trying to keep it compliant with state law. So the person that he appoints is can't be a formal member of the body. Because the only formal member of the planning commission that's a council member has to be just like you guys, for the most part. There's no intermediary kind of person.
Okay, and I guess where I'm going with that, and maybe this isn't the appropriate place, but I asked the council president, and the council president says he appoints committees that the mayor, and so maybe this should say mayor?
I think, I'll have to talk to the council president. I think he was confused because when the council member was a formal member of the board, the mayor would do the appointments. Council just would confirm the appointments. Because she's not a formal member of the board, then typically council liaisons in general are appointed still by the council president.
And I don't
And he
really
doesn't-
care, I was
and he
just
doesn't-
confused,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying?
We haven't fixed that at the city code level yet. That's coming at the next round of amendments. But yeah, we haven't fixed that at the city code level, so that's really a city code issue, not a meeting procedures issue.
And like I said, I was just asking, and I got,
So,
it's the
so just,
mayor,
so everybody understands, the mayor appoints commissioners,
right?
and the council president appoints council liaisons to committees and commissions.
As a general rule, yes.
Okay.
Yes. It depends on each
No, that's
committee and
great.
commission. Some of them, the mayor, like, if they're a formal member, the mayor will appoint them. If, like, I think for Ethics Commission, I think the mayor appoints, because they're specifically in the city code. But then we have, like, council liaisons to other boards and commissions. We might have a council liaison to Independence Day Commission, for example. There's no formal requirement there that a council member be on that commission, I don't
Okay.
think. So it's more of a, council liaison is more of a generic term used when somebody from city council sits in and observe, depending, unless they have a broader role given to them, basically sits and observes and then reports back to the city council of what went on at the last meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
Can I ask one other question that's
Sure, that's
sort of
that's what
in-
you're here for, to ask
Well,
questions.
We're counting them now.
Well, it's sort of in line with this, but it's not. So last time I asked you about like how previously at least two other council members that I worked with voted, and the one that was just current voted, and now that's being changed. And I asked if that was to align with other commissions, and I believe you told me no, that this council member that was currently there didn't want to vote anymore. And so what if our newest council member liaison wants to vote? Do they just ask the mayor and then the council flops it back and forth, or how does that work?
So that would require a city code change, because that was the only way to change the position from what it was, because the state law simply gives the city the right to to have one of the members be a city council member. So when the current city council member didn't want to vote and didn't want to be on, well, one basis to remove a commissioner is not attending meetings or not voting. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to participate. So there was no animal to create what she wanted. So the best we could do was have her be a liaison, or have the position become a liaison position, which was more informational. Like, for example, if the city council passed an amendment to the city code that affected one of the applicants, the city council member should be, versed enough in it to say, oh, this amendment meant X, Y, Z. It's an ordinance number, blah, blah, blah. So that's where the city council liaison would serve a purpose, to at least provide information, legislative information. But there's no participation anymore in the deliberation, because the state law does not allow that. We're constrained by state law. If you're not a formal member of the board, then you're something else.
I fully supported them changing this thing so that city council member did not serve as a commissioner, and the reason was, we are not a political body. We're not supposed to be a political body. We're not supposed to be sitting here voting in reaction to the political climate.
Right.
We're supposed to be sitting here voting based on common sense and the comprehensive plan.
I agree with that
Right,
100%, and I never got that from any one of the council members
And
I've served with, and if I did, I wouldn't serve here.
What now?
I said, and I agree with what you're saying 100%, and I'm saying of the council members I served with, since I've been on for a while, I've never seen any conflict like that, and if there was, I wouldn't be a part of, this,
Well,
if I thought that
oftentimes
was going
you
on.
wouldn't even know it because when that person casts a vote, other things are going through their mind, and that's just the way it is. And just like when all of us vote, who knows what's going through our minds, but we're trying to vote as apolitically as possible.
I agree.
Now, but the problem is it puts that council member on the spot when they're voting on something that's somewhat contentious in the city that politically,
Life's tough,
such as
right?
constantly approving new sections of subdivisions and all, when the people already live in there don't want anybody else moving in that subdivision, that kind of thing. And they're being watched on TV and everything else, and it really does put them in a spot from a political standpoint.
And again, I'm not disagreeing with you. I've just, I didn't see a need to change in any way, shape, or form, and
Yeah.
I'm just like a little bummed out it is, and you know what? But whatever the rules are, I'll follow them.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move down to elections. And let's just say, let's bite off 1 through 3 under elections. Let's take it down to line 61.
Small typo in line 55.
Yeah, there, it should be there instead of the. There is no voting by proxy. Instead of the is no voting by proxy. That's a typo. And I think under item 3, nominees for each office shall be present for the vote. Not should be. Either they must or they, if they agreeing to run, they must be present to agree. Because I tried to make it a little easier when I wrote in here that if for some reason they couldn't be present, as long as they gave us a written certification that they're willing to hold, to take on the office and serve. Thanks. But since city attorney struck that whole qualification out of there, I felt that should now become shall.
Yeah, I agree.
Agree.
You, okay? Okay. And that supports removing the other part about written agreements. Okay, so other than those two things, anything else on 1 through 3? Let's move to 4 through 7. I would start out vice chair with the vice chair. I would just say the vice chair.
I agree.
Which paragraph which line is that? Which line?
63.
Thank you.
Yeah, 63. It'd just be the vice chair. Nominee must also agree to, or the vice chair nominee, nope, the vice chair will serve. See, I'm having a hard time reading this stuff when it's broken up like this. Okay, 4 through 7, any other
No.
recommendations, comments?
Looks good.
I have a question. So, all 7 regular members of the commission include the mayor-appointed council member?
No.
So 7 is minus,
Yeah, the council liaison is in no way any part of the commission itself.
okay, so these 7 members are us,
Us. And then the 8th member is the alternate.
and the 8th member does not vote.
Well, yeah, it votes whenever they have to serve fill in as a regular member.
Yeah, but as an alternate, they
If they're just sitting there and not needed, no, they don't vote. But as you'll read further down, when we get to it, they are allowed to participate in a hearing up to a point. And we'll get to that. Okay, so we're down to 76, number 7, and everybody's happy?
Yep.
Okay, now meetings. Let's start with line 82. And before we turn the page, any problem with number 1? I didn't find anything. So let's flip over to page 3 and start with number 2. And let's just, since there's not a whole lot of modifications there, let's just take 2 all the way down through 9.
7 and 8 are redundant.
No, actually, you say they're redundant or they are the same?
They're different.
Redundant means they're not needed.
Okay, I think it can be combined to like 1. I don't know, it just says the same thing twice.
Well, it doesn't say the same thing.
Chair.
Huh?
Okay.
One is the vice chair takes over when the chair can't run the thing, and the next one
The other
is
one
if
is
both
if
of
you're
us
absent, they'll
can't
take
run it,
over.
then what do you do? And so that's what number 9 deals with, is what do you do with both of us have to recuse? Or he's sick and
Oh,
not
I got you. Never
attending.
mind.
Or is it basically authorizes the commission to appoint a temporary chair?
Oh, I got you.
Yeah,
I'm really thankful for 8 and 9. I mean, whatever that is, number 9.
yeah,
Like those
8 is
minutes.
struck, and
Yep.
yeah. Now, let's drop down to quorum. And hey, wow, she really likes what I wrote. No red lines.
Nope, nothing.
Can we turn the page to number 4? Number 4 and 5.
Problem.
Any issues with that? Can we move?
Yeah.
All right. Application hearings. Let's take the first 4 items.
I don't see anything.
All right, let's go with 5 through 7.
I know the code says the chair may swear folks.
Which line?
Well, I'm looking at 5B.
Okay.
Well, 5. And so, I'm just wondering if that's really
Should
necessary.
instead of saying I solemnly swear, because I'm not the one solemnly swearing,
Yeah.
and they don't know what to say, so I'm basically reading the oath. Should I change that quote to, "Do you solemnly swear"?
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
you could.
Okay.
I like that better.
I also think I spelled solemnly wrong also.
And I'll correct the spelling of solemnly when I redo this thing. Okay. Do you? That's what I'm reading out to these people. Now, Madam City Attorney, tonight I just had them all be sworn in at the same time. They just all stood. They didn't give their names at that time. They just all stood, raised their right hand, and I just look to make sure everybody had their hand up. And
Yeah, you could actually add an alternate, instead of saying shall come to the microphone, just say prior to testifying, all persons shall take the following oath, and then that would maybe eliminate, I mean, that might be more consistent with the practice.
How about if we said before testimony is taken, the chair shall administer the following oath?
Yeah, and just take the first part out, maybe.
Well,
As a group to all who are testifying. How's that sound? All right.
like tonight, that group raised their right hand and I guess affirmed that, but wasn't really on the microphone, if that makes a difference.
I don't think that mattered because we saw it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, that really wasn't the testimony itself, and that's the important part. Okay. Number 6, number 7. Let's drop down to number 7 at the bottom of the page.
No,
All right. I didn't have any problem with that if you all didn't.
no.
Now, let's just turn the page, and we'll finish that number 7 on the next page.
Nope.
Okay, now, a question I have here on number 8. When the public stands up to talk, when I call on the public, and sometimes the public has questions, sometimes the public wants to make a statement, sometimes they want to raise Cain. We don't have to swear them in, do we?
So that isn't at the same weight of the other testimony, however, I think.
So those aren't the facts of the case.
Right, but requiring them to swear in keeps the comportment of the nature of the hearing, that it is, people should come with seriousness and they're not just, treating it like a free-for-all. So I think it comports with the seriousness of the proceedings, but that would be up to you. It wouldn't be required because it's not coming in as the same evidence as the
I would
applicant.
just as a leader of this outfit, I would sure love to not have to swear them in because it takes up so much time.
It does.
And sometimes somebody just steps up and just has one little simple question.
Yeah.
And they're not here to give a speech. And sometimes that simple question, they'll just say, I have one question. They ask the question. They might direct it to one of the commissioners, might direct it to the administration. And then the next thing you know, that begets another question. And then that begets a statement of concern. And in other words, it sort of gets away from me.
Right, so maybe, if the person's not trying to admit factual information as evidence, if they're just asking questions, I don't think you would need to swear them in. So you can play that by ear.
Your advice to me would be, which I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, once in a while we do have a citizen that stands up and they actually want to tell us about something that we didn't know that affects the case. They're giving us information. At that point, I would stop them and I'd swear them in.
Yes.
Yeah.
That sound reasonable? But that's just going to have to be a chair call.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think generally you should just allow the public to speak and not swear them in.
agree
I
with
think
you.
that just tends to intimidate the public. That's totally unnecessary.
I think so,
I think
too.
it's inappropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite like an appeals board hearing.
No, it's not.
And
If you look at the Department of Planning educational course that we all took, sections 6 and 7, roles of planning commission and boards of appeals, they make a very clear distinction between planning commissions and boards of appeals. And where boards of appeals are adjudicatory hearings.
Sure.
And planning commissions operate more openly than that.
that's right.
It's an educational process. you know, it's a learning process. It's a very different process than a Board of Appeals process. So
is,
I think
and-
we should keep to that spirit.
I agree. Okay.
But there's something wrong with the way 8 reads, isn't there?
The chair shall then invite public questions and comments during which responses, questions and comments. Oh, it's just, it's not written smoothly. I can fix that.
Very good. Okay.
And then to respond to public questions and
Yeah.
comments.
Fix wording. Yeah. Okay. Number 9.
Same thing, a final opportunity to express opinions.
2. Okay.
Can I interject something here?
Uh-huh.
It's not written here, but we have, this doesn't address written comments. And the last couple of hearings, we haven't accepted written comments from the public. And it's not clear why we would,
Written comments?
yeah. Is that correct, Jeff?
When's the last time public walked in here and had something in writing?
No, when they submit, somebody who's not here submits written comments, and we have not accepted those, where we used to, but the last couple of hearings, we did not.
Typically by email?
Yeah,
To who?
Whom? It was to the planning commission, or remember we used to have those, we used to get emails, written comments, they'd be before us.
I think that, I really think in order to keep order in the process, that it's okay if the public sends a written comment to the department, and the department then distributes that comment
Right.
to us, but is that okay outside of the hearing?
So there are two things going on. One, you've got requirements of the Open Meetings Act, and what the Open Meetings Act is the one issue, and what you're considering needs to be part of the package of information that you are considering. So in order to consider written comments by the public, we would have to have a process, which we can add to these rules, but we'd have to have a process by how it gets distributed. Does it get distributed to the department? Department then sends it to the commission, posts it with the rest of the information, and then has to give it to the applicant so that the applicant has time to respond. Because in the past, it was never consistent whether the applicant got it before the hearing or not. And so there was concern that the commission was considering matters that were not part of the public record, which is required as part of the Open Meetings Act. So you have to combine both the Open Meetings Act requirement as well as the due process rights of the applicant. So even though it's not a formal judicial proceeding, it's still quasi-judicial, and there are property rights in play.
How about if we make
Yeah.
that easier? And just if, first of all, the public needs to know that it can't just send stuff out to all the commission ahead of a meeting, period.
Correct.
That everything has to go through the department. That's rule number 1.
Can I make a suggestion on that?
Well, let me,
Just on that particular
all
thing?
right.
Maybe having a form on the online page where they fill out a form with all their documentation or name, address. Maybe that would help with that particular thing.
Well, what I'm recommending, we're dealing with somebody that can't make it to the meeting, but they want to get their
Right.
ideas across. Okay, that's fair enough. Now, what if the rule is that they have to submit that written piece to the department, and then when we have the hearing, during the hearing, the department reads it to us, just pulls it out and reads it. This came to the department. And they read it to us. Or if they wish, if it's too long to read, they can make copies of it and distribute it right here during the meeting.
And I would actually recommend there be a time limit,
Yeah.
like the court does, like 7 days before the hearing, any public written comments would have to be submitted because they need time to prepare a response.
Okay.
I think waiting until they get to the hearing to share it with them would be not fair.
Yeah, I agree. There should be, I don't know if 7 days is right, because the staff report usually doesn't come out till 7 days, but 48 hours ahead or something like that, I think might be appropriate.
But essentially what I'm saying is
And
that
I've seen that rule, submit.
we shouldn't have to put anything in these rules and procedures regarding that situation if that information is coming directly to the hearing via the department. And then the department would make the rules about the 7 days or the 48 hours or whatever. That would be their process.
So that's what I was going to add. I think all the questions that come to the department, you address them to the best of your ability, correct? Most of them are addressed. So I don't, if those are addressed, I don't think there's a need for us to revisit those here, right?
No, I think they should definitely be part of the record.
I mean, they are part of the
The public
record.
comments, they go to the department distributes them to us and the applicant, so the applicant has time to respond if they feel it's useful.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
If you address them and you feel they're taken care of, why revisit? If there's something that's not taken care of or needs our attention, is brought to us. Otherwise, we'll have, I mean, it's the same thing. We can't have a 5-hour discussion on that.
I got an opinion. One, in all the hearings, there's been very few, okay? Now, I don't want to preclude any, and I like your solution that as long as they're received in a certain amount of time earlier, you can present them to everybody at the same time, meaning the applicant hears it the same time we do. And I think that solves everything with the Open Meetings Act, as long as the department determines it's not a phone book, you know what I'm saying? It's real live, you know.
I mean,
I liked what you suggested, Volney.
yeah, I could see a situation where if a group of citizens gets angry enough about something, they could flood the department. Every one of them sits down and writes a different message, and they just flood the department with these mailings, and then we have to take up half the night trying to just wade through those things. But that's never happened.
But just by comparison, the city council does not typically read citizen comments into the record that they receive by email. They require somebody to come, even if somebody else is reading it for them, because if it's that important to the citizen, then it should be at the public forum.
See, I personally feel that that if you want to say something to the planning commission, it's just me, you need to be here, period. And that's it. And if you can't be here, then you need to find a friend with standing that can come and say the same thing, even if they read what you wrote down. But the person needs to be here.
To be fair to all the parties in the room.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think otherwise we do run the risk of somebody coming up with a bright idea of flooding us out.
Yeah.
So you and I are agreeing that we leave the written comments to the director's discretion?
Well, I would rather either, in our meetings, I would either rather the citizen be standing here.
Yeah,
Speak.
exactly.
Or that a citizen communicates with the department, and the department can either report what they communicated or even paraphrase it. They don't have to sit there and read their letter. They can paraphrase.
Yeah, as they see fit.
Right.
Okay,
But
so
in either case, it's presented during the hearing.
Well, I think we can come up with internal procedures to handle those.
Yeah.
And I think it's more appropriate that it come to the department rather than to the commission members.
agree.
'Cause that
So
really,
if
you're a
we,
volunteer board and you should not be getting comments from citizens
No.
on matters coming before you. You should be coming in with fresh eyes.
Right.
and if we proceed that way, we don't have to change anything in
Right.
here.
Okay.
We're good to go.
Well, just so long as we don't preclude written submissions by the public.
Well, I just know where that's going. But anyway, that's I really question why somebody has to write something to us, why they can't come here and present it and read in person what they wrote. so that we can then ask them a question or two about what they just wrote. It's just like in the courtrooms, you know, you need to be able to cross-examine whoever wrote the report. They can't just send a report in to the proceeding. They've got to be able to be cross-examined. In our case, we're in essence doing a cross-examination by asking questions and clarifying. I just think it's unfair to the commission and to the applicants and to the process to tie things up with written reports for people that don't want to come here.
So right now, we'll just try the internal process with the department and see how that
Yeah.
goes. And we'll post something on the website, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it worked fine in the past.
And we can always come back and revise these rules and procedures if we figure out a way to handle that. If we decide to go that route, yeah, let's do that. Where the heck are we?
10.
Where did we leave off?
Number 10.
10?
Mm-hmm. I didn't see anything wrong with that.
Okay, this is new language for me in running a meeting, is asking for the motion to close the record, which I didn't do tonight.
Yeah.
I just announced that the record was closed. But we're going to have to start, I'm going to have to start following that number 10 to the letter. Number 11?
That looked good too.
I like 10 and 11. I
Yeah.
like both of them, yeah. Number 12?
You know, I'm not rushing you, but I don't have anything on the rest of this page.
Me either.
All right, well,
Gone through it twice.
let's go down to number 13. I just have some modifications. Upon the offer of a motion, this is item 13 now, and a second, the members can discuss, members plural, can discuss the reasons why they
Yeah.
would vote to reject, approve with conditions, blah, blah, blah. So I would change member to plural, and I would say they instead of thee, which I think was just a typo. Number 14, number 15, and number 16. Any comments? And I go to page 6, and I personally like the whole thing. It's
Me too.
you just want to get home. I know.
Look, if I had a comment, we would be going over
Yeah.
it. And you caught some typos I didn't even catch, so.
And I'll catch a few more when I go through and do the final.
Yeah, I kind of went through this just briefly. Some of the vacancies sounded a little redundant from what happened earlier, but I could be wrong about that. And if it is redundant, I don't think it matters, but,
Okay. You mean in general? This is a general comment about the.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, filling vacancies, I thought it was covered earlier.
I'll take a look at that when I go through it in detail and
Yeah.
see if I can find some redundancy. Okay, page 6. Is everybody on board with page 6?
Yep.
Let's go to, oh my goodness, the last page. Holy cow. I was going to order breakfast.
Nothing wrong with 6. I can see. Or 7.
6, 7, and then we drop down to the last 1 and 2.
Yeah, I have a problem with this insertion of the site visit thing. One, I think it's totally unnecessary.
2 what?
The site visit rules,
Or 2 what?
it's unnecessary. And it's confusing, and it unduly restricts, commissioners from doing their jobs. Because let's look at the state land use says, in the performance of the planning commission's functions, a planning commission and its members, officers, and employees may enter on any land and make examinations and surveys. So that's,
I've always
pretty
operated
clear.
under the belief that a planning commission member, in essence, has the right of trespass.
yes,
And,
well,
but out of courtesy, should always notify the owner that they're coming onto the property. It's a good way not to get shot.
So,
And
so I want to comment about that. So, you know, the interesting thing is that, you know, I'm not giving their phone number, okay? I'm not going to send them a letter, all right? And I agree that there is some due diligence involved, as long as there's an application made. Once we're,
Yeah.
you know, we're not going to be like, hey, I can be here because I'm a
Right.
planning commissioner. No, I can be here because you made an application,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm here. And so, again, I don't know what, you know, I know it was suggested that we all get there as a group. Well,
That's not
sometimes we have trouble, all of us just meeting here on a
Yeah,
regularly
meeting here as a
scheduled
group.
night, right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I'm agreeing, as long as you're not like four-wheeling all over their property or something like that, and you're respectful like we are, that I don't see why it's a problem. And the applicant should just be made known that, you know, it's possible that some or all the planning commissioners might be interested in looking at the property in person.
right.
See,
So in
it's-
fact, in rereading the site plan application regulations, in one section it states, by submitting this application, you are consenting to staff and commissioners coming onto your property.
You know,
So that's part of the deal.
and somewhere, unless it was destroyed in my fire, I had a badge. They gave us a little, no, they gave us a little identification card that said, you know, hi, I'm a planning commissioner.
So would it
we're
be-
given that so we could go into Bully Rock. And what I found out was all I needed was a year pass, a 1-year visitor's pass.
So
It was the
what-
construction workers.
What I thought would be helpful if some commissioners were going, shouldn't the other commissioners know so that they might join them the same day? Not that they have to, but it would alleviate inconvenience to the landowner if several come at the same time, as opposed to one comes this day, one comes that day, one comes this day. And if it's a property that, you know, is occupied by other people, they might have tenants or something like that. I was just thinking that it might be a more coordinated effort, might be more conducive to, what's the word I'm looking for? Just cohesiveness of the review and not have hodgepodge visits. I just thought that seemed a little unprofessional. So even though you have the right to go on the property, I was just thinking, as a board, maybe it should be something the chair should be aware that the members are going, or other members might want to join, or they might consider going another day. Like, it just seemed it should be a little more coordinated than just hodgepodge.
My
That
practice.
was all.
My practice in all these years has been to visit every single property that we have a hearing on. And almost all of those visits do not involve me having to go find the owner or do any of those
No, I
things.
wasn't saying that.
And what I've done is I've, in most cases, I've not even had to go physically onto the property to see what I need to see.
Drive by.
Well, I get out of the car, I might get out of the car, or I'll walk onto an adjacent property. All I want to do is be satisfied that I understand what's going on around that property,
I agree.
what the neighborhood looks like, get a general feel for what the property looks like. I'm not there to get into nitty-gritty stuff.
No,
I'm
I
there
understand.
to see the property.
The only other issue that was raised in that paragraph was if there's more than a quorum, then you have an Open Meetings Act
Yeah,
issue, and you
that's actually
can't, you
becomes more of a
go to
problem.
observe, you can't talk business. So that is in there, that's the law anyway, but I put it in there because not everybody understands the law.
So I
I've
can,
said-
I can understand your perspective about if it's an inhabited building, and maybe that's what should be addressed, only that. If
Okay.
it's an inhabited building, that we would get permission,
But we don't need to
Or
go
at least
into a
give
building.
notice, just to
Yeah,
give
we never
notice
go into a
everybody.
somebody's
building.
property, somebody's living on the property.
I agree. We don't go into buildings.
We don't need
generally,
to.
it's a big piece of farmland that they're
Right.
subdividing.
Right, right,
I mean,
Or a
seriously,
forest that they're cutting down all the trees.
right.
Yeah, and in the past, I've actually advocated if we wanted to go as a group, let's make it a public meeting.
I don't think
Invite the
that's,
public.
sorry, that's not feasible. I have very long working hours.
Yeah.
You may be retired. I don't know about you guys.
Well,
I can't do this group thing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I usually like to hit commercial properties on maybe a Sunday when nobody's there, you know.
That's-
Yeah.
That's when I do it.
And I do drive-bys whenever I can.
Yeah,
I'm in the
yeah.
area, I can
Let's,
do it.
let's do this to resolve this. I think this is
Yes.
a very healthy discussion about that last section right there. How about that if April and I take a fresh cut
Yeah,
at drafting that thing in a bit more simply?
yeah.
I agree.
And we'll take that section and send it out to you
That's good.
so that you can see what we're doing. And then at our next meeting to approve the whole ball of wax, we can tackle that paragraph in more detail. Does that sound fair enough?
Yep.
Yeah.
And number 2 looks good.
Yep.
I don't see anything wrong with that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
This is really well
Yep.
done.
Okay, let me, before we go, and not to make any more work for you all, you know, in going through this, some other ideas came to my mind, so I don't expect us to resolve these at the next meeting, but just a few other points to think about.
Give me some things to potentially add to the
Yeah, to
rules and
potentially
procedures.
add going forward.
Okay.
And most of this is in terms of transparency, making sure, you know, if a final subdivision application comes through, that's posted somewhere on our site. Same with forest conservation plans. Ideally, everything would be in a drive where the public could access it, an accessible shared drive. And talking about site inspections, I've raised this before, it'd be really good if, like, center lines of the road were flagged in the field. And it would be good, you know, if Jeff or Eric, at the beginning of the meeting, could just give a download, like you do at city council meetings, on administrative actions that have happened, so that we know something that's been sitting around for months, even years, that yes, the Department of Public Works has resolved the issues regarding fire protection on this thing, and here's how it came down. So just, you know, things that would be helpful for follow-up.
That's an interesting list. Okay.
Okay.
Any other matters we need to take up? Do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
I motion that we
All
adjourn.
in favor, raise your hand.
Yep.
Aye.
Right.